Imagine a world where the punishments for breaking a promise are not just legal fines or community service, but the complete destruction of your homeland, the death of your children, and the scattering of your people across the earth. This is not a medieval fantasy or a dystopian novel. It is the stark reality described in the ancient text of Leviticus, chapter 26. This chapter lays out a series of blessings and curses, promising either the most abundant life or the most devastating destruction, depending on whether the Israelites adhere to God's laws. The text is a powerful reminder of the gravity of covenants and the consequences of breaking them. Leviticus, one of the 5 books of the Torah, is a collection of laws and regulations that guide the Israelites in their relationship with God and each other. Chapter 26 is a pivotal point in the book, serving as a sort of contractual agreement between God and the Israelites. The chapter is divided into 2 main parts: the blessings for obedience and the curses for disobedience. The language used is both poetic and terrifying, designed to instill a deep sense of duty and fear in the readers. The chapter begins with a clear and promises of blessings for those who follow God's commandments. The first few verses emphasize the importance of not creating or worshiping idols. This is a direct reference to the 10 Commandments, which strictly prohibit the creation of graven images. The Israelites are reminded that they are to keep the Sabbaths and revere God's sanctuary, recognizing that He is the one true God. If the Israelites adhere to these commandments, God promises an array of blessings. He will provide timely rains, ensuring that the land yields abundant crops and the trees produce fruit. The agricultural cycle will be so prosperous that the threshing of one harvest will overlap with the next, and the vineyards will be so productive that the vintage will continue into the next season. This hyperbolic image of unending fertility is a powerful symbol of God's provision and care. The blessings extend beyond agriculture to include security and peace. God promises to drive away predators and protect the Israelites from their enemies. They will live without fear, and their enemies will be defeated. The text even suggests that a small number of Israelites will be able to defeat a much larger force, emphasizing God's presence and power. One of the most significant promises is that God will make the Israelites fruitful and multiply them. This echoes the original command given to humanity in Genesis, where God tells Adam and Eve to be fruitful and multiply. The promise of fertility is not just about population growth. It is a sign of God's favor and the continuation of the covenant. The Israelites will have enough food to eat, and their land will be a source of abundance and security. The chapter also promises that God will dwell among the Israelites, setting up His tabernacle in their midst. This is a powerful symbol of God's intimate presence and protection. The tabernacle, a portable sanctuary, is a physical representation of God's dwelling place, and the promise to establish it in the land is a sign of God's commitment to the Israelites. The text emphasizes that God will not loathe them or reject them, but will walk among them and be their God, and they will be His people. The second half of the chapter is a stark contrast to the blessings. It describes a series of increasingly severe curses that will befall the Israelites if they disobey God's commandments. The language used is graphic and terrifying, designed to instill fear and obedience. The first set of curses includes the withholding of rain, causing the land to be barren and unproductive. The Israelites will sow their seeds in vain, and their enemies will eat the crops. They will be defeated in battle and forced to flee, even when no one is pursuing them. The text suggests that the land will be so hostile that even the sound of a driven leaf will cause them to panic and stumble. If the Israelites continue to disobey, the curses will intensify. God will send diseases, including consumption and fever, which will waste their eyes and make their throats ache. The sky will become like iron, and the earth like bronze, making it impossible for the land to produce any crops. The Israelites will spend their energy in vain, and their land will yield nothing. The curses will continue to escalate, with God sending wild animals to attack the Israelites, killing their children and livestock. The land will become desolate, and the cities will be in ruins. The Israelites will be scattered among the nations, and their enemies will have dominion over them. The text describes a complete collapse of society, with the Israelites living in constant fear and suffering. The most extreme curses involve the Israelites eating the flesh of their own children, a hyperbolic image that symbolizes the complete breakdown of social and moral order. The text also describes the destruction of the Israelites' sanctuaries and the desecration of their corpses. The land itself will be laid waste, and it will lie desolate for many years, expiating its Sabbath years, which the Israelites failed to observe. The chapter concludes with a message of hope. However, even in the midst of the curses, God promises that He will not completely reject the Israelites. He will remember His covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and He will eventually bring the Israelites back to their land. This promise of eventual restoration is a glimmer of hope in an otherwise bleak and terrifying passage. The purpose of the curses is not just to punish the Israelites, but to bring them back to obedience. The text suggests that the curses will be so severe that the Israelites will be forced to recognize their sin and turn back to God. The hope is that through suffering, the Israelites will repent and return to the covenant. While the specific curses and blessings described in Leviticus 26 may seem extreme and foreign to modern readers, the underlying message is still relevant today. The text emphasizes the importance of keeping one's promises and the consequences of breaking them. In a broader sense, it highlights the idea that actions have consequences, and that there are real and significant costs to violating moral and ethical principles. The chapter also speaks to the concept of divine justice, and the idea that there is a higher power that holds individuals and societies accountable. The curses serve as a warning that ignoring moral and ethical standards can lead to catastrophic consequences. The promise of eventual restoration, on the other hand, offers hope that even in the darkest of times, there is a path to redemption and reconciliation. The shocking and terrifying curses of Leviticus 26 serve as a powerful reminder of the gravity of covenants and the consequences of breaking them. While the specific details may seem archaic, the underlying message is timeless. The chapter challenges us to consider the importance of integrity, the value of keeping our promises, and the consequences of ignoring moral and ethical principles. In a world where covenants and commitments are often taken lightly, the message of Leviticus 26 remains as relevant as ever.